started. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Carrie Dillard. I'm the Programs and Public Policy Director here at the Paducah Chamber. This is our 5th and final seminar in our Small Business Month Celebration Seminar Series. Thank you for all of you who have attended more than one. Thank you if this is your first one. We appreciate you taking the time. Today's seminar will focus on e-commerce sales and social media marketing. Our speakers today are J.C. Phelps, Training Coordinator for the Kentucky Small Business Development Center, Aaron Harned, the Center Director for the Small Business Development Center located here in Paducah, and Chris Hill, owner of IHM Used Parts, and he is a mentor for the Paducah Chamber's Small Business Cohort Program. So before we get the program started, I do want to say a sincere thank you to our presenting sponsors, F&B Bank and Payroll Vault. We're so very grateful for your support. You have supported us in many ways, and especially through this series, we think is very valuable for our local small businesses. I think you would both agree. And I want to bring you up here to let both of our sponsors say a few words. Ike Nichols, Market President with F&B Bank, and Deb Domke, co-owner of Payroll Vault.
Thank you, Carrie, and good morning, everyone, and see some familiar faces, so hopefully everybody's been able to make it to some of these other weekly meetings, and I think it's been a good program, and sorry to see that's the end of it, but I think it's, again, Chamber's done a great job of putting together this program, so, and again, on behalf of F&B, just want to say thank you for what you do for small businesses and making small businesses better in our community and bettering our community. And also just want to say thank you to the Chamber, Carrie, Molly, Sandra, thank you all for what you've done for putting this program together. It takes a lot of work. So again, I'll turn it over. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I am Deb Domke, the other half of Payroll Vault, or part of the team. I think I'm the better part. But I think these are wonderful. It's been a delight to be a part of it and a delight to sponsor a program such as this. And we have such a wonderful chamber that these opportunities throughout the entire month have been able for you as entrepreneurs, myself as an entrepreneur, to connect. And when you're building your business or you're building your organization, the key to success is the connections that you make and building the connections and the resources in your company. So as you grow your company, it's those people that you reach out to that you met, Hannah or whatever, that you met in these type of workshops, and the relationships that you develop is what helps to grow your business. So on behalf of Payroll Vault, my husband and I and our team, we thank you for this opportunity to connect, and if we can ever help you in any way, please reach out to us, because we know what it's like to build from ground up. We've been in the corporate world and we've been in the entrepreneurial world. So God bless every single one of you for being here this morning and taking that journey and stepping out on your own to be a success in life. So again, have a great day, and I think these are going to be some great, I'm looking forward to hearing from our speakers today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you both. I'm going to turn it over to our first program speaker, J.C. Phelps, the Kentucky Small Business Development Center.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Glad to be back in Paducah. As was said, I am J.C. Phelps, and I'm with the Kentucky Small Business Development Center. So before I do any of these, I always like to take a second and tell you a little bit about the SBDC. We are in our 44th year of working with Kentucky small businesses. And we are statewide, so we cover all 120 counties. So if you know someone, anywhere in Kentucky, feel free to send them our way. And if they're out of state, every U.S. territory has an SBDC, okay? Here in Paducah, in this area of Western Kentucky, you all do have Aaron Harned, and he's gonna get me for saying this. Yes, Aaron is my friend, but I will say, being a part of state office, Aaron is exemplary. He is the model coach for our program, highest performer. He is fantastic. You will not find a harder worker than him. And so if you have not connected with him, or again, if you're looking for a referral partner to send someone to, there is no one that I could recommend more than him. And fortunately, and unfortunately maybe for him, I do say that everywhere that I go. The SBDC, we offer two main services. The main service that we provide is one-on-one business coaching, but then we also do training and education, and that is what I lead out of the state office. Both services that we provide are provided at no cost to our entrepreneurs, and we're proud of that through many community partnerships like we have here in Western Kentucky, our sponsorship with the SBA, and our administration through UK. My email address is up here if you all want to take a photo or ever reach out to me. I do come to you all from Russell County. I came in town yesterday, Lake Cumberland region. But I have been here at the SBDC about 5 years. And outside of the SBDC, I actually work as a professor of economics and business at Lindsey Wilson. And here at the SBDC, I've transitioned into this education role. But this is one of my favorite topics. When I was working in the field, I most often worked with our digital marketing and e-com clients. And so I kind of hybridized a couple of things that I have taught in the past for this presentation for you all today. Now I've volunteered Aaron to do something for me. I know you all will probably take notes, but if you're like me or if you're like my students, you freak out if you don't get something down, right? Aaron has promised that he will send you a copy of the slides, and I appreciate that. So if you want to reference back, please feel free. You'll again have my contact info, and if there are any questions that I can help you with as you're reviewing back or anything, I'm more than happy to do that. Just shoot me an email, okay? So I'm curious though, in your all small businesses, who in here actually has an e-commerce presence? I'm curious. A few? So those of you all that do, if you don't mind, tell me what you do, what industry? Where's someone here?
I'm a jewelry designer.
Okay. Jewelry design, good.
We have a brick and mortar store, it's an Old Town General Store.
Old Town General Store, very nice, I love it. Who else did I see?
Heavy equipment parts.
Yes, and we're going to hear about that later. You know, what I love about that though, think about the variety of industries that we're seeing right here, and we see that e-commerce very much works for all of them, right? That's something that I think people misunderstand. I think e-commerce is going to continue to become even more popular within our small businesses as things become increasingly digital. And of course, I know you all probably know this, but e-commerce, if you don't know, is the buying and selling of goods online, okay? E-commerce is something that is often misunderstood. It's often approached with inappropriate strategies, and I think it's overcomplicated at times. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. For those of you all that do e-com, tell me what providers you all use. What do you all use? Wix, so you use the attachment within Wix. Okay, what about you at the jewelry business? Shopify. And Etsy, okay. We'll talk about all of this today. What do you use, Chris?
eBay and my own website that's
Okay.
custom done.
A combination, I like it. So we're going to talk about what you may use to qualify, what you'll pick later on in the presentation, but I did list just a few here. I think one of the largest, if not the largest, is Shopify. Certainly the one that I have worked with the most. And Shopify is an interesting one because, of course, you can build your full website through it. But one thing I will say, and this is not an endorsement just for Shopify, when you are choosing an e-com provider, you want to look at support, okay? And Shopify has 24/7 support, and I really think that's advantageous. I have certainly used it with clients a lot. Square, we know the Square terminal that we so often use. They also have an e-commerce presence. and you can build a website just through Square and use that. WooCommerce, I'm a WordPress user of almost 15 years on my own website. If I were in e-commerce, WooCommerce would be what I would use as an extension on my site. BigCommerce, similar to WooCommerce, but I list others down here. And I think people think of Shopify maybe when they think of e-commerce, but Etsy and eBay and Facebook Marketplace, all of these things are also e-commerce. On Wix, what's the integration on Wix called? Do you know off the top of your head? I was trying to think myself, so don't feel bad, yeah?
I built my website first years ago and then just recently added within the year the e-commerce side.
Oh, good, so within a year, yeah, that's great. And I think that's a similar story. I've heard that from so many people at the SBDC. I think COVID taught us that we need to diversify our income streams, and also you can just reach more people. I can be in Jamestown, where I'm from, a town of 1,600 people, and sell all over the world if I needed to, right? That's the power of the internet. But this last bullet, if you all can see, it says combination, and Chris highlighted this too. I think some people think that you should only choose one, and I think there's something to be said about that. Depends on your capacity. However, I'm also of the belief that diversification is a good thing, and you should meet your customer where they are. And so I've had many successful clients here at the SBDC have a presence, say like on a website, but then they also have an Etsy or something like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You need to think about your pricing strategy if that's the case. Are you going to be consistent? Can you offer a better price on your site because you're not losing as big of a cut, right? These things are things to consider. It's always best to sell through your site. You're getting the traffic. It's your brand recognition. Oops. There we go. And you also have less fees. Now, one thing I want to, I pressed that multiple times, let me make sure I didn't press, and I did. Let's see, we're lagging a little on the clicker. Give me 1 second. What I want to show you, these are monthly plans. Okay. Ooh, you never keep going back. We're just getting wild on it. No, it's Wednesday, yes? Wednesday morning. What I want to make clear is that e-commerce is not free, okay? If you've ever been in one of my marketing trainings, and I think that maybe is what I taught last time I was here, I'm not sure. One of my favorite phrases that I coined is that, social media marketing can be free. E-commerce can have a free capacity to it. It's free to be on, but it's cheap to be good at, okay? And so yes, you could list something potentially on Facebook Marketplace for free, but there are other options. So hopefully it won't progress, but this is just Shopify, and their Square progress, no problem. But as you can see here, Square does have a free option on base. But what I want to say about the base, if you look there in the corner, there is the per transaction fee. So Shopify, it could be, I think it started at $39 a month and went up. Square starting here at $0. And then it goes up to Plus, Premium, all of those things. What is important though is those fees really do add up, okay? And so this is the finance in me. Depending on how much you sell, you may be tempted to do a lower plan. As you can see, the more expensive plan has a 0.3% less fee. And so you need to determine if that will be more than $79 a month, for example. You could in fact save money being on the most premium plan. So something to consider. But as you're weighing these options, price should certainly be it. Now, as these fees come out, of course that is something you can account for both on your bottom line and your taxes if you're having to send in any fees. It's a business expense. But it's something to pay for and to look at. The divide and the photo's a little blurry. those of you all that said you're on Etsy, if you've ever sold on Etsy, largely, creative, I can imagine why, one would in jewelry. Etsy fees have gotten astronomical. They are astronomical. They did not used to be that way. And it's likely that they've maybe even updated since this, but there's a listing fee, there's an advertising fee, there's a payment fee, a transaction fee. The transaction is 6.5% of price, look at that.
Wow.
And just the list, 20 cents, it really eats into the bottom line. And so again, in talking about pricing strategy, if you're going to be using a platform like this, be very careful of your price point. Because you you certainly can offer this on your website for probably a lesser price. Again, you may want to offer the same price. There's something to be said about congruency in your brand. But at the same time, that is certainly going to eat into your bottom dollar. Let's see. We'll progress. This is how I am of a morning too. It takes me a while. Gotta have my Diet Coke. All of that to say, let's talk about what we have to qualify. So not many of you all were on e-commerce and you say, okay, I'm gonna look into Shopify, I'm gonna look into Square, I'm gonna look into XYZ. What might you want to look at? You need to look at your business needs, okay? How scalable? Are you going to be limited by who you choose? That's something to consider, okay? Do you need a website or do you need an integration? They were on Wix, right? So they used the Wix integration. They already had a website. If you don't have a website, you may consider something like a Shopify, where you could build the whole website around the e-commerce presence. The subscription plans and pricing, transaction fees, those differ case by case and really need to be looked at. And I think the biggest though is support, truly. New batteries. Support is so critical because if you're anything like me, having been in the website world for 15 years, generally speaking, I know quite a bit about sites. I burn up WordPress. I send something in every single day, I think. And I've always joked that they have a dartboard with my face on it because I'm always sending in that, those questions. However, my $300, $400, $500 a year I pay them, I get my money's worth. That support can save you a lot of heartache. And time is money, right? If they can solve something for me, why waste a week of my time if I can take just a moment to ask a question? So, you've chosen maybe a platform. Here's the thing. When you list a product, not all product listings are created equal. This is largely coming to you by the fact that at my core, I'm an SEO person. I write a food website that receives anywhere between 1 to 2 million hits a month.
Oh,
my
wow.
primary income. I've done that for about 15 years. And how you go about this, how you rank in the search engines, how you interact with customers through your text, very much changes, okay? So when you list a product online, it's not enough just to list it. You gotta be strategic. So what are some tips? Your product listing title, and I'll give you an example of this, that should be in your description. That's an SEO thing. You want to repeat what you're selling, right? Keywords. Defining your buyer persona before writing your description and reflecting your voice. In your product description, think about who you are as a brand, right? Your products reflect you. Every blog post that I've written for over a decade starts with "Hey y'all," right? Because I write about Southern food. If that is your voice, you'll do that, right? That's my customer. But it's something to think about. You all are customers, we all buy things online, so I encourage you to think about what you look for when you're listing something for your own business, right? That tends to be a good tip. And so looking at features, looking at benefits, these are the things that motivate purchases, right? However, what we can't do, and I say this with respect, the internet has made us lazy, right? It really, really has. And every word that you put in that listing past the next one you run the risk that they're going to stop reading it, okay? And so we need to be concise. We need to have scannable copy. Copy in marketing is your text. So I don't need a big paragraph, right? No one's going to read the big paragraph. It needs to be separated in little groups, a sentence or two, or bulleted points, because that's how people read nowadays. And we'll talk a little bit about optimizing for the search engine, but the last bullet cannot be stressed enough. Imagery. Imagery is everything. And if you can have image and video, even better, right? But you have to have good imagery. Some general search engine tips, because again, you want someone to go to your site that knows your brand and be able to read it and like what they see. You also want someone on Google to type in what you're selling and you want to pop up, right? That's how we find new customers. And so a pretty general SEO formula. I told you whatever you're selling, those keywords that are in your title of your product listing, that should also be in the description, okay? And typically these keywords, which are often called long tail keywords, are 3 to 5 words. And I'll show you an example that will go in. Alt text, if you have the option to put in alt text in your website, that is an accessibility feature. And you should type in what the image is, okay? Now here's a big one. This comes from 15 years of blogging, and I wish I knew this many years before I found out. When you upload an image to your website to sell, Google does not know how to read that image. It will read it as image, right? You save something to your computer and it will say IMG1234, right? That's how Google will read it. You have to title your images before you upload it, so Google will know what it is. We title images with the kind of a coding tip here. You don't use spaces, you use hyphens. That is preferred by Google. And so say I was trying to sell this candle. I would, if I were making this listing, it's obviously a mason jar candle and the scent is cinnamon spice, right? Mason, hyphen jar, hyphen candle, hyphen cinnamon, etc. Okay? Now, when someone Googles a mason jar candle or a cinnamon spice candle, when Google is scanning your site on the back end, they recognize that that photo and that listing is about this, okay? So it's a way to tell Google 2-3 times, your keyword should be in your title, it should be in the product description, and it should be in the image, okay? And that tells Google confidently, this is what this listing is actually about. Google pushes things to the top that they feel confident will satisfy consumer needs, okay? And that's one way to do it. And you may want to repeat that keyword a time or two. Let me show you an example though. This is a Kentucky brand, Pink Lily. I will use them, ginormous e-commerce brand out of Bowling Green. And so, obviously not my target market, but let's talk about it. They are selling here, here I am with an econ degree, trying to sell a green dress to you all. But they are selling this green puffy sleeve dress, okay? If you notice in the title, it says Kelly Green. Maybe you need a Kelly Green dress, you're gonna type in that color to Google, right? Puff sleeve, mini dress, all of these things are keywords. It's in the title. So again, when you search it on Google, hopefully this will pop up. Here's the product description. Easy to read, see? Really scannable. Bulleted points. First thing, Kelly Green puff sleeve mini dress. Why did they do that? They were repeating that keyword from the title into the description. The name of the image, I promise you, has these words in it too, okay? It tells things that would be helpful for the buyer. No stretch, my worst nightmare, right? Line, size small, all of these things. Material and care. These are things that you as a consumer may look for. This is for your experience, but it's also SEO optimized. So if you look for this dress, by and large, it's going to pop up. That is the power of SEO, search engine optimization, for your product listings. And unfortunately, they should all be that way. What I will tell you, if that is not the case, if you're having issues with that, don't get overwhelmed, okay? I had probably been, publishing web content for 6, 7, 8 years before I had a really good understanding of SEO. It has taken me years to update my content because my website currently has like 14,000 images uploaded into the library, okay? There are still posts I'm updating, still to this day. I make a goal every week, update 3 to 4 posts with new things that I've learned. If you have an e-commerce store and there are things that you need to update, as you upload new listings, you're gonna update it correctly, right? You're gonna know what to do. All your old posts, make yourself a goal, 2, 3, 4 a week, whatever. If you try to do it all at once, you're gonna burn out on me, and that's not what I want you to do. I want you to have a strategy that you can keep in the long run, okay? And so set a small goal for yourself and do it. Now, social media marketing and e-commerce, my favorite intersection, here's the thing. SEO is very important. Again, I don't sell hard goods in what I do, but when I look at my web traffic, about 90% is organic search. That means people are just finding me on Google. That's even with, 100 or so thousand social media followers. I rely on Google. Most small businesses cannot do that. Why? It's competitive. Think of all the websites that are out there. That doesn't mean you can't rank and should discourage you. You absolutely should do the things in the beginning. However, social media for many small businesses is that key that helps funnel people to the website. Social media is a funnel. And so these social media platforms, not only do they send people through your content to your site to buy, they're now morphing into e-commerce providers in and of themselves, okay? We'll talk a little bit about that. But this combination does have a synergy. It makes you more visible. It makes you easier to find for future, current, and past customers. And one example, who uses TikTok? Who's a TikTok user in here? There's one person, so I scroll for about 3.5 hours last night, I'm sure. I'm in the TikTok Anonymous Club myself. But all of that to say, if you've been on TikTok and you haven't seen TikTok Shop, right, you're not scrolling enough. It's everywhere. These are small businesses. And TikTok Shop has absolutely changed the game for many of them. I've had clients at the SBDC have a very different revenue figure simply because of this. What platforms like TikTok, like Instagram, what they have now are e-commerce integrations. And you simply have to set them up, right? And so that's called social commerce. Social commerce is using the social media apps to sell your item without having them leave the website. I want people to go to my website, you probably do too. However, it's the same logic as when I was saying one more word, they're gonna fall off. With every click, you run the risk that they won't click, okay? And so if you can sell something to someone on TikTok or on Instagram, sell it. This is that combination question deal again. This is becoming very, very popular. And so by clicking, if you look at this image, it's the little horizontal bar with the orange in the corner. By clicking that, I can see, whatever makeup this person was using. I can read reviews, see how many sold. That's consumer trust, right, in a social media app. Those listings will be optimized from your website using the strategies from the beginning, okay? That is how social media and e-commerce have integrated. Now, one thing I want to make clear, if you are posting, I'm a big Facebooker. Facebook is one of my key audiences for recipes. So, certainly be on the platforms that talk to your audiences. But when you are on social media, if you are trying to sell, which we all are, You got to tell them what you want them to do, right? We live in a scroll society. I tell my students that all the time. It's S squared. We scroll over and over and over. And so if you don't have a call to action, or if you don't capture attention, they're not going to do it, right? And so if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Pinterest, if you're on TikTok, you need to drive a conversion. You need to say something like, shop now, click here, shop, whatever it may be. This enhances user experience, which is what it's all about. It tells people what they can do and how very easily, right? And it also allows them to use the platform features. On TikTok Shop, you press the button. On Instagram, you can swipe up in stories, right? Things like that. This makes the consumer experience easy for you to gain revenue, which is absolutely critical. For me, I just posted a recipe when I was in line at Starbucks before coming to see you today, right? And it was for sausage stuffed mushrooms, okay? To go to the website, what do I say? Get the recipe, with the click. And while it's just been up for a couple hours, I was looking while I was talking to Aaron. Actually, it's been up for an hour and a half, just from that click, or just from that little call to action. I've had 540 clicks from Facebook already today, right? Because I made it easy. I'm saying click here, and here's the direct link. Last tip I'll say before I end is that if you are linking out to a specific good, don't link to your website. Link to that actual good. That really annoys consumers. You need to send them directly to that listing. Last thing, data points. E-commerce is all great. It's all dandy. Social media is dandy. But if you're not looking at how it's performing, you're not being strategic. E-commerce has a few different data points than some other things that we often look at. One, that share page views. Obviously, look what's getting the most views in your shop. Ask yourself why. Is it more optimized? Does it have better imagery? Right? It's not enough to say this is the most popular. You then have to say why, okay? Average time spent shopping, that's a metric. Every platform calls it something different. That's important. We want people to be on your website for as long as possible, right? If they're only on there for 10 seconds, something went wrong, right? We've all clicked our website and thought, a little sketchy, and then you leave, right? You don't want your small business to be that. A bounce rate is exactly that. They go to your website and they bounce, right? We don't want that. We want them to click. We want them to add multiple things to their cart. And so if you have a really high bounce rate, something to look into. Shopping cart abandonment, what's happening? Maybe it's a price issue, right? Maybe the checkout process is cumbersome or hard. If people are adding things to the cart but they're not checking out. You can also set up email campaigns here. These always get me. Nordstrom's like, JC, you left 4 things in your cart. I'm like, yes, I did. Take my money, right? And I go back and I spend it. Last thing, products purchased frequently together. I love looking at this metric. Why? It guides my imagery. And it guides imagery when I'm telling clients what to do. If you're a jewelry store and you're often selling a certain type of ring with a certain type of necklace or whatever it may be, you need imagery that depicts that, right? And looking at that e-commerce data helps us know what people are buying. It can also help maybe form a sale or deal, right? Get people to decide, buy this, get this for 10% off. And maybe they'll buy something else full price. E-commerce is all about strategy, just as social. But the number one key I can tell you to take away from this is that it has to be optimized. Too many people are selling nowadays to just throw it up there. We can't throw it out there and think it's going to be sticky. You have to be strategic to make it sticky, okay? That's all I have for you all today. Thank you.
Good job, JC. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Chris with IHM Used Parts. And so we're kind of getting the presentations moved over here a little bit. So, oh, clicker, shoot. All right. So thank you guys for coming out here today. I'm looking around the room. I know a lot of people here already, so thank you for taking your time out this morning to come check out our stuff on e-commerce. So a little bit about me and who we are. I have a Caterpillar bulldozer junkyard. Yes, that is a real thing. So basically what we do, we're a combination of a Caterpillar bulldozer junkyard and a high quality and we sell high quality aftermarket parts, but for heavy equipment. So kind of think of it as like a combination between a salvage yard as well as a Napa Auto Parts store, but for heavy equipment. We've been in business for over 40 years at this point. Yes, I started when I was 6. And personally, I've been doing it for 17 years. However, this excludes my years as being a custodial engineer whenever I was a kid back in the day doing this stuff. So bulldozers, these are machines we've parted out. Excavators and track hoes for those who don't know much about heavy equipment. Lots of dump trucks that we do. So a little bit about me, why you should come here to listen to what I'm saying here today. So I've been on e-commerce with eBay starting in 2007. That's 17 years ago, unfortunately, at this point. And during that time frame, I've sold over $800,000 on eBay directly, but most of that has been in the last couple years or so. 99.9% of my leads come in from either digital marketing somehow or from industry-specific websites. Because, has anyone in here ever heard of IHM Used Parts if you don't know me personally before today? Exactly. Nobody knows what we are. I mean, literally, we're on a dirt, we're in a rural road in rural Graves County. So you're either there to see us or you're lost as hell. There is no in between on that. And so currently I have 22,000 listings on eBay as of this morning. And I hope to have about 100,000 within the next few weeks. Need to make sure I do it the right way. I have 110,000 listings on my website, IHM Used Parts. And roughly 5% of my business is inside the state of Kentucky. So about 15% of our business is exporting, so roughly we sell 80% of our business is to the other 49 states in the U.S. Because we ship 99.9% of all the sales that we have. And we ship items that are small as, a 6x6x6 box that weighs a couple of pounds, literally up to engines that we ship over to Russia, well, we could ship to Russia, weighs about 7,000 pounds or so. All right, so trying to be very, you guys are, busy with your time, so I want to make sure to give you basically some just best practices from my experiences. My background is actually mechanical engineering. I have no formal training with e-commerce, and so everything that I do here is self-taught here in the last few years or whatnot. So from my experience, try to use a third-party marketplace first for what you're trying to do. So I've had lots of success on eBay because one, it is a pain in the butt to build your own site. I mean, truly, if you're a nerd, you can kind of do it on your own. I did it on my own a little bit, and then I went with people who are better than me to create the website and everything because truly, my website has over 100,000 listings on it. That is not an easy thing to do because I was pretty good at getting up on day 1, but however, getting it to sync on day 2, that is a hard technical problem. And so truly, I've had people who are web developers to get that where it works well. All right, so if you use a third-party marketplace, you're actually doing business with Amazon, with eBay, with Etsy. So you have more trust because if someone goes to your personal website, they really don't know who you are. And so you have the instant trust with eBay, Amazon, Etsy, etc. And you'll have a lot more traffic because literally the third-party marketplace, it's their job to bring traffic to the site. And one of the things, and JC talked about this earlier, is whenever you're selling something on the third-party marketplace, there are going to be fees taken out of that. And so make sure you price that accordingly. So a lot of my businesses, I sell both wholesale and retail as well. So my goal is if I'm selling on the third-party marketplace, I am going to have sell retail, but after you have the fees and such built into it, I will sell for roughly wholesale on that. So kind of the difference on that. And so examples, Amazon is by far the biggest e-commerce platform in the world at this point, but they are a pain in the ass to deal with. Cannot stress that enough. You have to have your stuff together 100%, and if you're on Amazon, you start selling a lot, Amazon will start buying from your supplier and selling it themselves. You have to be very, very cautious going in there with Amazon. I've talked to too many people. Because what I do is very, very niche, very, very unique. And so I would like to be on Amazon, but a lot of what I sell is used. And so Amazon doesn't do very well for selling used items on there currently. eBay is very good. That's the primary third-party marketplace I've used. And so one of the best practices on eBay is try to be a top-rated seller. If you do that, your eBay fees go down by 10%. Walmart Marketplace is a good one as well as Etsy. And so best practices again, so e-commerce done correctly, per my estimates, is roughly the same as at least one salesperson at your brick and mortar store. So basically, once you're doing e-commerce correctly, it should be equivalent to that one salesperson. And also, if you're looking to export, eBay is very good for exporting items that are 40 pounds or less, because truly to export, you need to have, the export documentation and fees and all that. So literally you can do door to door from your location, ship it to the third party logistics company that is generally in the Chicago area, and they handle it for you directly. And also, once you start advertising on the third party marketplaces, your phone / email / brick and mortar sales will go up as well, because that's another source that people are going to be finding you, and they will come in person to purchase as well. And so last year, I track where all my sales come from, and so I had additional 14% on top of my eBay sales, like saying, hey, I saw you had this listed on eBay, and they will call me direct or email direct on that. Plus you don't have to pay the eBay fees. All right, more best practices. Raise your prices. I know the cost of doing business has increased dramatically for everybody in the room right now. And so if some of your customers are not complaining about the pricing, it is too cheap. So that's just a blanket statement for most everybody. And for what you list on e-commerce, do your best, the products that you sell the most of, list that first. So I think, has everybody heard of the 80-20 rule in here? So basically, if you look at your products, roughly 20% of your products will be 80% of your sales. So only list the ones that have the high volume going forward. And don't offer free shipping unless you have to. I literally wasted thousands of dollars on free shipping just to make it easy. And then I went back and started looking at the analysis. At least in my industry, a lot of times you have buying a brand new one for, say, $4,000, or you can buy an aftermarket one from me from $1,500, and there's no other competitors on the site. So if there's, everything comes down to supply versus demand. And so if there's no other options, charge a fair shipping cost. Don't gouge anybody on that. And be careful buying leads, because you can easily spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars buying leads if you don't. You need to be able to prove to yourself that, it's raining good. You need to be able to prove to yourself that it's money well spent. Okay, so here is a pay-per-click example on this. So let's say I want to sell a part for $4,000, and my cost for the part is $3,000. So I have a potential profit of $1,000 there. All right, so, because basically a lot of times driving traffic to your site is a glorified Algebra 1 problem. So I know I'm going to talk about a little bit of math here, so hopefully, I have a Tennessee education. Hopefully the Kentucky people can catch up here as well. So, and actually, Karen and I went to the same high school. We realized that a few years ago. That was like, really? Small world. Okay, so potential profit of $1,000. And if your conversion rate is 5%, so I just threw a number out there. And so basically, if I purchase 20 leads, one of them will actually buy the part. And so the question is, what can I spend per lead to make $600 profit? So what you do, it doesn't work. So basically the sale price, the $4,000, minus the cost, minus the pay per click total cost is gonna be the profit that I'm gonna have at the end. And so 4,000 minus 3,000 minus the PPC total cost equals 600. So that means I can spend $400 on pay per click cost to bring in the lead. And so if the PPC total cost is for 20 leads, okay, so the total cost divided by the number of leads is cost per lead, so I can spend $20 per click to bring people to my website. Does that make sense at all for anybody? Okay, so, and also if you want a copy of the slides, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help on this. And so one of the things that I'm looking to start to do is to have an e-commerce meetup, because I think there's a lot of skills in the area of people who are doing this, and as long as we're not the exact same market, we can help each other out tremendously on this, because we all have issues sending items, dealing with Google, dealing with the different websites and whatnot. So it's just a lot we can help to help. The more we can help each other out, the better off everybody's going to be. Okay, final advice, just do it. So many people wait for it. It's got to be perfect in order to do it. Get something out there. Now, as JC said, we always need to optimize. But I think the majority of the room, y'all don't have e-commerce right now, correct? So in general, just do it, because it will not be perfect the first time. You may not have all the shipping weight and dimensions in there, the pictures aren't great, and you're gonna make some bad decisions. That's just business in general. But just do it the first time. So start small and test. So for myself, and then scale larger once you figure out what works. So literally from eBay in the last flying year, I've got almost about $267,000 on eBay sales in the last year. I had 168 the year before, 151 the year before that, and then 53 before that. So I've been growing pretty good. But once I figured out what worked, I did on a small scale first, and I started adding more and more listings. So I think I added 18,000 last year. In fact, final advice, a good plan vitally executed now is better than a perfect plan next week. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Not sure which
So
side.
let's bring it, in the final minutes, let's bring in JC, Aaron, if you want to come up too, and Christy, stay here and see if anybody has any questions for them.
Didn't see it here. Sure. Y'all gotta have a little bit of questions, don't you?
Yeah, so I wrote down several of mine, but I'm just going to start with one. In terms of when you're talking about updating your e-commerce platform, like you talked about doing it regularly, but how far back do you actually update it? Like, do you try to keep your website consistent, or is it just like your top sales?
Great question. Ideally, the whole website would be, however, again, so overwhelming. What you should do is first look, you need to rate what you're selling. And so you want to update and have the best listings for the ones that produce you the most revenue. Secondly, after you've tiered those, like tier 1, I would look at tier 2, things that you feel have really high potential, but are not performing at the level that you think, right? And then there's maybe a bottom tier. If you had time, you would update these, but these are not, huge performers for you. I think one mistake people do that they make is that they start all the way back at the beginning, when in fact you should be, starting with the low-hanging fruit. That's a wonderful question. That's how I would do it. For me, too, if you look at your Google Web Analytics, if I see a blog post, which is what I do, showing the ads and how I make money, if I see them kind of slipping, right? If you had a post that used to, or an item that used to make you good revenue, but it's going down and down and down, update it, right? And then it's going to be fresh for Google to push it in. What other questions do you all have?
Chris, how did you get started with the selling?
Oh, how do you get started in the business? So I'm actually second generation in the business.
Okay, cool.
And so we started doing salvage in 2000. We were a heavy equipment machine shop on the Caterpillar equipment in the Nashville area up until the mid-90s. So everybody remembers whenever the Houston Oilers became the Tennessee Titans back in the mid-90s. So our business was located in downtown Nashville and became parking lot for the new stadium. And so we learned about eminent domain and got kicked out of downtown Nashville. And we had done some salvage in the Nashville area, but just didn't have the room to do it, because basically that was the absolute hood down there back then. Like, it was rough. And my parents moved back to the family farm. And in 2000, Dad bought like 2 or 3 pallets worth of parts from a local cat dealer that they were selling at auction. And I started an Excel spreadsheet as our database back in 2000. And then I came back in the business in 2007, and honestly, the best decision I've ever made. So we've been able to grow tremendously during that period, and because literally, my industry is a global industry. And so you look at, who I can't sell to, it literally comes down to, I can't sell to North Korea, I can't sell to Russia, I can't sell to Iran, anywhere there's a trade embargo. And literally, we have people contacting us from all around the world all the time. So, thank you.
How many employees do you have?
I currently have 6.
Oh, nice.
But like for me, truly, I was talking about like the pay-per-click example. So it's very difficult to have a lot of different listings up there. Like literally, I'm sending about 90,000 listings to Google Merchant Center every day right now. And to get Google liking that all the time. Because my goal is if someone types in this random Caterpillar, Komatsu, or John Deere part number, I'm available for sale. Hopefully I will be the #1 organic listing honestly in the world. And so I'm not there yet, but a lot of people in my industry aren't very tech savvy.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of opportunity there for us. Well, thank you guys for coming out and listening to us. Hopefully
I think we have one final question.
I'll take the final question if nobody else has it, but how have you guys been finding that AI has been affecting your search and SEO?
For me personally, that's above my pay grade right now. So I'll let JC take this one.
You have an hour. Wow. So I will say, Google has been the bane of my existence lately. I'll just say it. They've had multiple iterations of what's called an HCU, if you all kept up, the helpful content updates. And Google has changed many times what they like and what they deem to be most friendly for their search engine. I will say, knock on wood, and you can go knock on something 100 times. I have never had decreased traffic year-over-year. I have been very lucky, but I'm also very strategic. I think the only way that I have beaten all of these updates is that I have never played into fads. I've always played into general SEO optimization, and that's all I do. I didn't start lengthening things when they wanted a certain word count, because then I knew it would shorten, right? So that would be a tip. So stay true. Some SEO things, the titling, the keywords, those things will never change. What is going to change is the AI. Now, I'm a big fan of AI in a lot of ways. If you all are on Facebook and scrolling and you see, if you're similar style recipe posts, again, what I do, recipes AI is taking over the food blogging world. It's like our biggest concern. And Facebook is enabling AI features, Google AI. It's going to very much hurt independent publishing websites. However, I will say in the last week, Google acknowledged it, which I was surprised by. And so I think there's more to come. It is scary. It's very scary for me to think that, there are always these sides that scrape what I do. It just is what it is. But AI, I think, is the biggest risk. All I'm going to do, and what I would tell someone, is keep your head down, keep doing the work, because it's gonna teeter, it's new, we'll learn how to live with it. But I think it's the biggest risk I've ever faced in my digital career that we're about to face. The helpful content updates, but the enabling of AI and search engines, it's gonna change it big time. Yeah.
Let's say thank you again. Absolutely. I want to reiterate something that JC said earlier. Erin is a phenomenal resource for our community. We're so very blessed to have a small business development center here in Paducah. We are very supportive of Erin and his work, and I think it's a mutual admiration society. Erin helps us with our small business cohort program, and if you haven't made a connection with Erin, you should. And that harkens back to something Deb said. I think that these programs, seminars, and other programs in the chamber helps you make those connections. But we cannot do it alone. That's why we have resource partners like Erin, like Sprocket, like the city of Paducah, like Paducah Bank, all who support programs like this and like our small business cohort, and we're forever grateful for that.
Thanks so much, Gary. I really appreciate that. One quick commercial for me. Like Jason said, we provide no-cost confidential business consulting services. So if you haven't met with me already, please meet with me. And the easiest way to do that, JC and I have some pretty strict rules from the SBA about what we can count and what we can't count. So training events is one of those things that I have to have your name on that sign-in sheet back there for me to be able to count you all. So for us to continue to get our funding from SBA, we really appreciate it. You make sure you sign in on the sheet. Make sure you got your email address. I'm going to follow up with a survey this afternoon, and I'll provide JC and Chris's slides to everybody, and it'll have my contact information. So if you don't have my contact information already, you'll get it. You'll get the slides this afternoon. Please complete that survey, and then reach out to me. I'd love to set up one-on-one meetings with anybody who I haven't met with you. And thanks so much again to the Chamber. This has just been a fantastic opportunity to support our small businesses